Most people hire the first real estate agent they talk to. No interview, no questions, just whoever answered the phone or showed up at the open house. Tonight, I'm going to show you exactly why that could be a mistake and give you 10 questions that could change everything. Hi, my name's Travis Harrison, a realtor with Woods Bros Realty here in Lincoln. This is session 2 of a recurring series where I really focus on market data, real estate talk, no sales pitch. So tonight we're going to cover the 3 types of representation, what actually changed with commissions post the National Association of Realtor settlement in 2024, how to interview an agent, as well as 10 questions that you should ask before you hire anyone. So let's jump right in. The 3 types of representation. The first is a buyer's agent, where they work exclusively for you, the buyer. Fiduciary duty, loyalty, confidentiality, full disclosure. They negotiate on your behalf. They advise on price, terms, inspections, strategy, and must tell you anything that affects your decision. A seller's agent works exclusively for the seller. Same fiduciary standard, but to the other side. They market the home, they manage offers, negotiate for the seller's best outcome. They do, however, must disclose material facts to buyers, and the loyalty stays with the seller. They cannot represent the buyer's interest in the same transaction. Dual agency is where it does get complicated. This is one where the agent represents both the buyer and the seller, and it is legal in Nebraska with written consent from both parties. But the honest truth, a dual agent cannot fully advocate for either side. Their fiduciary duties are reduced. It can feel convenient, but understand what you're agreeing to before you sign. So if your agent is also the seller's agent, they cannot tell you the seller's desperate. They cannot tell you there are no other offers. They cannot negotiate hard for you. It's not a knock on anyone. It's just math. One person cannot fully serve 2 opposing interests at the same time. So now let's talk about commission and the National Association of Realtor settlement. We all like to be paid, including myself, so I'd rather attack it head on. So here's what happened. In August 2024, the real estate industry went through one of the biggest structural changes in decades. If you've heard about it but aren't sure what it actually means for you, this is a quick version. So before August 2024, sellers typically paid both the agent's commission, usually in the 5 to 6% range, always negotiable, but negotiated on the listing side of the transaction. Buyers rarely saw or negotiated what their agent was paid. It was baked into the listing, largely invisible. After 2024, sellers are no longer required to offer buyer's agent compensation. It's negotiable. Buyers must sign a written buyer representation agreement before touring homes, and compensation has to be disclosed and agreed up front. So here's what this actually means for buyers in Lincoln. So before you buy or tour a single home, you'll sign an agreement that spells out exactly what they're paid and how. That might feel like more friction, but it's actually more protection for you. You know what you're agreeing to, and you can negotiate that. For sellers, you have more control than before. You can choose whether to offer buyers compensation or not. Strategically offering it does still attract more buyers and more offers in most price ranges, but it's your call, and you should make it informed, but not by default. So, in many transactions, the seller still will cover the buyer's agent compensation, but not always. More transparency is good for you as the buyer and the seller. So how to interview and choose an agent. Most people pick an agent because they know them, they called first, they went to an open house, it's a friend of someone they know. It's not a strategy. Here's some things that you should actually look for. Some green flags. They explain agency and compensation clearly before you ask. If you have to drag it out of them, that's a signal. They pull actual market data, not opinions. You want someone who shows you comps, days on market, list to sale ratios, not the market is hot right now. They ask about your goals first before they pitch themselves, and they should understand what you need. They have a defined communication plan and stick to it, and will tell you things you don't want to hear if it helps you, and have recent verifiable local transaction history. Red flags. They pressure you to sign before you answer questions. They can't explain their compensation or dodges the question. They tell you what you want to hear on price, not what the data shows. They don't return calls or messages promptly before you're a client. They have no system, no process, no timeline, no clear next steps. The biggest red flag is an agent who discourages you from interviewing other agents. A confident agent with a track record says, talk to 3 people, then call me. Anyone who pressures you to sign before you've asked your questions is telling you something. So what are some common questions that you should ask before hiring a realtor? The first, how many transactions have you closed in Lincoln in the last 12 months? You want a specific number, not quite a few or years of experience, but recent local activity. What's your average sold to list ratio on your listings? So if you're considering listing with an agent, this is important to know when looking at comps, looking at pricing strategy, things like that. How are you compensated? And will you put it in writing? So post-settlement, this is non-negotiable. Any hesitation's a red flag. We all like to be paid, including myself. Being transparent on that compensation is extremely important for you as the listing agent, or as the seller, or as the buyer. Question 4, will you represent me exclusively, or do you practice dual agency? This is an important question to ask before you list, so in the event something does happen, how is or what is the plan to manage through a dual agency potential situation? Doesn't always happen, but does periodically. Question 5, what does your communication process look like? How often? How? Including sharing how you like to be communicated with as the client. Question 6, what happens if I'm unhappy? Can I end our agreement? Good agents say yes immediately. They don't hold clients hostage. Agreements can be terminated both on the buying side, selling side. If it's not comfortable for either party, let's just have that conversation and we can terminate the agreement. Question 7, what's your strategy if my home sits for more than 30 days? If you're in a situation where you want to sell within 30, right, what is that plan? If you're looking, I'll sell in 6 to 9 months, but let's get the process started, that's a different conversation. Question 8, have you worked with buyers and sellers in my price range recently? Does that agent know the market? Question 9, what does that agent do that other agents doesn't? Everyone says they work hard and they're responsive, but you want something specific and defensible that they do. Question 10, can I speak to a recent client? Any hesitation tells you something. So with that, I appreciate you tuning in. If there's anything that I can do to help, please reach out, call or text me, or email me. I host bi-weekly webinars found at this same link. The next one will be in 2 weeks, focused on how the home buying process actually works. But with that, that's the kernel. Pass it on. It could change everything. I'm out and about in the Lincoln market daily. So thanks and have a good evening.